The SCO leaders meet is underway. You can see the visuals on your right now. Chinese President Xi Jinping is currently addressing the leaders. But what has grabbed everybody's eyeballs is the conversation that the three leaders, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin had just before the SCO meet started. While Xi Jinping was welcoming the leaders at the venue, there was this quick chat between the three leaders. We're constantly showing you the visuals that has grabbed eyeballs and is also going to send out a strong message. Now, these are the powerful visuals that everybody was waiting for since the SCO summit started. These are the visuals that were much anticipated. And remember, this comes just before the big bilateral between India and Russia. Gaurav continues to stay with us. Gaurav, can this be seen just as a trailer right before the big bilateral between India and Russia today?
The India-Russia bilateral promises to be a very positive one, as what sources are telling India today. It's a very significant meeting. Whenever Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Russian President Vladimir Putin meet, there's something positive that emerges from it. They have great personal chemistry, a great personal bond. They're two very strong leaders and two very strong leaders who respect and trust each other. In fact, there are Russian analysts who say there are very few people the Russian president trusts, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is one of those who he implicitly trusts and respects. This is something that I'd also heard, when we traveled to Tokyo in 2014. Then Prime Minister late Shinzo Abe, only three leaders he followed internationally on social media platforms, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is one person he trusted a lot. And that trust actually has transformed into India, Japan, being very close, trusted, friends. Prime Minister, before he came to China, he spent time in Japan. And that leg of his meeting, according to sources, has been extremely significant. There is a big economic cooperation agreement, investment of more than $60 billion in India. There is movement of skilled and semi-skilled labor from India to Japan, and Japan needs a lot of manpower. Given a lot of effort needs to be put in. One, their population is on the decline. Two, they need skilled manpower that they can trust. Excuse me. With Japan trusting people who comes into their society, who comes into their territory, and whether they will contribute positively to Japan's economy, to their society, to their state, that's very important. And they trust India, they trust Indians. So that movement of skilled and semi-skilled labor is big. The space cooperation, science and technology cooperation, cooperation in the field of electronics, strategic cooperation, military cooperation, shipbuilding cooperation, all of that is huge between India and Japan. The Prime Minister going to Japan and then coming to China sends out another message at a strategic level. So overall, when you see India's diplomacy, and India is playing this its cards very effectively to ensure, one, we do not want to alienate the West. The ball is in America's court. India has a bilateral trade agreement already in place with the United Kingdom. It's in the works with the European Union. Bilateral trade agreements and free trade agreements in the works with the Gulf countries, with several countries in other parts of the world, integrating closely with ASEAN. So if you integrating also with South American countries. So if you notice overall, apart from BRICS and SCO, bilateral trade agreements and multilateral trade agreements, India is moving forward at a very rapid pace. Wanted to move as rapidly with the United States of America, but the ball is in their court. But multilaterally, if you see, India is integrating itself very effectively to the world to ensure that our economy continues to grow, to enable us to become the third largest economy between 2027 and 2030, and amongst the largest economies in the world in the next 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And if you talk about the bilateral between India and Russia today, can Modi and Putin, chart out a stronger roadmap for defense and energy cooperation, and how significant will be that given the current situation?
Oh, absolutely. This meeting, of course, will not be so much in depth about defense cooperation. One you meet and greet, you get to know each other better, you interact with each other better, you review the progress of various measures that you've already undertaken. But when he comes to India later this year, President Putin is likely to be in India in December this year. That is when we expect big ticket announcements, not just on defense procurement, but India's new mantra of defense manufacturing in India, transfer of technology in India, and setting up of units in India, manufacturing units in India. That is India's big effort, and we shall see perhaps, there are a lot of works, projects in the works. Remember, Russia is the only country which has given us technology and technological cooperation and a nuclear-powered submarine. Nobody in the world has done that in the past. So do appreciate that when you boast of being able to operate a nuclear-powered submarine, that's a very big signal. And that's happened because India and Russia trust each other implicitly. INS Chakra, your own nuclear submarines, Arihant, Arighat, indigenous technology, but Russian cooperation. That's not all. The Su-30 MKIs that played a very significant role even during Operation Sindoor, Su-30 MKIs, air dominance fighters, and your BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, a Russia-India partnership now manufactured in India and from India exported to other countries, including countries in the ASEAN region. Again, a very big partnership and a very significant partnership. So this is where India-Russia partnership has held India in good stead through the 1970s. When the American 7th Fleet came into the Indian Ocean, the Russians also had their fleet in the Indian Ocean to tell the Americans that there's a message, Russia stands with India. There was a mutual security cooperation agreement that time in place. That's point one. Point two, do keep in mind, India was able to defeat Pakistan, split Pakistan into two. Bangladesh was born, but subsequently, India-Russia cooperation, even when you look at the Kargil War of 1999, the T-90 tanks that India now has, the T-90 tanks, some were removed from Russian inventory and sent to India. That's held India in good stead. So Russia-India partnership is something that's held India in great stead. And perhaps this partnership, from oil to defense to strategic cooperation to exploration of oil to technology. Recently when I was reporting from Russia, Russia wanted more cooperation not just in the field of IT but also in healthcare and medicine, and not just allopathic medicine, but there was exploration of whether Ayurvedic medicine and Indian traditional medicines can play a bigger role in Russia, and especially in the Russian Far East. Oil exploration, joint exploration of oil, many aspects and layers of this partnership that are being explored and being taken forward right now.
As you were mentioning about the oil, so could discounted Russian crude remain India's energy lifeline despite the tariff hurdles by the United States?
So recently when I was interviewing Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri, he spoke of how India had diversified, our basket from and our oil procurement wasn't restricted to any one block, any one region and any one country. From I think 22 countries expanded to 27. Now we've crossed 40 countries from where we meet our oil requirements. And Russia, it was the Biden administration that actually urged India to increase procurement of oil from Russia so that you could stabilize global prices, refine the Russian crude oil, and then re-export it, and then export it to Europe, to America, to other countries in the world. That would help stabilize prices across the world, and that's exactly what India was doing. And suddenly, when administration changes in the United States of America, and do remember there are no sanctions on Russian oil, there is just a $60 barrel price cap. India maintains that procurement under that price cap. It's India that's able to negotiate with Russia and get oil at a discounted rate, whether it's private refiners or state-run entities. It holds India in good stead. If 80 crore people India is able to feed, in a very difficult situation, and that's a point that India has repeatedly made to Europe. Nobody is standing in a queue for food like in Western countries because food is being provided through direct benefit transfer in our country. That's something that the West actually talks about emulating in good times, but now is threatening us in these times. So India is not buckling under pressure. Will India increase procurement of oil or decrease it? It depends on circumstances. There are many circumstances at play. India's ambassador to Russia had made it very clear, Ambassador Vinay Kumar, that in case we require that oil, we will take it. In case our companies require it, they will take it. Markets will dictate that. Geopolitics has a role to play. If we were to get a good deal out of America, it depends on what transpires, but those are diplomatic negotiations that take place. Right now, it serves India to buy that oil, and India will continue to buy that oil. That's the point India has made.
Gaurav, so the question is that can India balance closer ties with Moscow without antagonizing United States?
That's a choice for the United States to make. Our relationship with the United States is not incumbent on our relationship with Russia. India has repeatedly raised the point of American support to Pakistan, but America made Pakistan its closest non-NATO ally. America continued to give F-16 fighter jets to Pakistan and upgraded those F-16 fighter jets. They turned a blind eye to Pakistan's support to radical Islamist terror. So this is something that India has lived with. It's a complex world. There are no best friends, and as the External Affairs Minister put it, you cannot say kutti today and we are friends tomorrow. That's not the way international relations work. You just try to see how best and how many of your common interests meet. When your common interests meet, you're aligned. When your interests don't meet, you distance yourself from those aspects of a relationship, and that's the point. India is not a part of the Western Bloc. India is not a part of the Eastern Bloc either. So India is not part of any bloc. It's a member of multiple groupings because it holds India in good stead to be member of multiple groupings. Now, multi-alignment, the West may see it as black and white, that you're either behind the Iron Curtain or you're a part of the Western Bloc. But that's not the way things work in this ever-changing global dynamics. Why would we want to become subservient to the Americans or play second fiddle to the Americans when we're the world's fourth largest economy? So, if there are hardships, yes, we will have to face those hardships. I was speaking to a senior diplomat who said, look, our rise to the top will not be aided by anyone. We will have to fight for our place under the sun, and we will have to take risks. That's exactly what we are doing. Those risks have held us in good stead so far. There may be trouble, there may be issues, but ultimately our effort is to come out on top.